what is an EQ to me? To me, an EQ is an alteration of the sound waves and air that's being pushed towards my eardrum, you know? If I dip at 5K like I did right here, all I really did is I dipped, 5K of the sharp frequencies that are coming towards my ear. So in other words, I just altered the sound wave. Hey, how you guys doing? Hey, thank you so much for joining me again. This is vlog number 3, and in this vlog, I'm gonna be going over EQing. What is EQ to me? Okay, keep in mind, this might be something you've never heard before, but this is how I view EQ, and I thought I would share it with you. So I made some notes, and I want to jump right into that so that I don't make this video too long. The last video was like, I think 20 something minutes. So, okay, so EQing. Keep in mind that when you EQ, let's pull one up here so we can show an EQ. Okay, I'm using the Pro Q3. Great EQ. It has so much to it. We can get into that another day. But okay, so keep in mind when you're using an EQ in stereo that you do affect both the mid and the side information if you're using an EQ in stereo. So, and the reason why it's important is because, like, if you have certain things, like, okay, like let's say, this is a good example. Like, you start your track, right? And you're at, you're adding all these elements, right? You're in your creative zone, right? And you just adding a bunch of stuff, right? You're just like whoop 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 whoop, right? It's all good, it's all beautiful, right? At the end of the night, you're like, damn, this sounds really good, right? And then you get down to the mixing part of it, and you have what you have because it's what you created, right? It's like, it sounds good every time you hit play. You know it's gonna have to get mixed, but you don't really think too much about what, adding an EQ will do to your sound. So you have, let's say, an element that's predominantly stereo, and you end up adding an EQ to it, a stereo EQ, and you either cut or shave some of the low end, maybe some of the high end. Well, if you're not careful, you're gonna take off that energy from the sides using a stereo EQ. So by knowing, as I said in my last show, where your elements are the strongest at, as I wrote here, like I told you guys I would, everything on each of my track has where it plays. If it plays in mono, if it plays in stereo, I have the fundamental frequency written on each one. And this is just something I do because it makes it really easy for me to go back and add EQ. Okay, so yeah, it's very important to pay attention to the way you're using an EQ. If you're using it in stereo or in mid-side mode, right? The mid or the side. The best way to go about it is to know where the element is the strongest and use an EQ that pertains to that side of the mix. Remember, this is just me, right? This is how I'm going about it now. I don't want to take energy from my sides if it's the middle that is causing the issue, right? Or the middle that needs to be enhanced. I don't want to add a bump in say 8K in the middle if it's 8K that I need to bump on the sides. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's a little confusing. Leave questions in the comments always. I'm so happy and so glad to answer them. take you into the crazy mind of Jose. Okay, so that's number one. Be mindful of how you use the EQ. Okay, remember EQs also introduce latency. You know, every plugin you add to your DAW introduces latency. So that's a subject for another day as we get deeper into this mix. Basic charts are good, you know, like mixing, EQing charts, but honestly, in my opinion, like they can only bring you, I mean, I don't even know. Like I'm still kind of like debating that. Like an EQ chart, you know, that you see online is like, oh, how to EQ vocals, how to EQ a kick. Well, you know, it's my opinion that every track is different. And I don't mean that to be general and just be like all loose about it, you figure it out. No, let me explain. I'm going to actually give you an explanation why I say this. Is because no two people in this world hear exactly the same. Like the way I hear is based on how many hours of listening experience I have versus you. And also the human aspect of it. You know, some people hear better than others. Some people got dog ears, as they say. Some people can't hear low end anymore. They can't feel low end or hear high end more of what I should say. You know, so another thing that can affect the EQ decisions is the room. Like I have my room treated based on the size of the room. I also have a room correction software named SonarWorks, which I'll be happy to tell you guys about if you haven't heard about it. It's a room correction software. The environment, you know. So when you have a chart and you're like, yeah, you know, mix vocals like this or EQ vocals like this, I don't really, I mean, I think in the beginning, like everybody else, I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like, yeah, now I know how to, but you know, I would always find myself like, okay, it said to do this, said to do here and dip here and bump here, but 9 times out of 10, it just sounded like poop, like it didn't work. So, you know, I feel that because of the science behind it, essentially of what we're trying to accomplish. I mean, what is an EQ to me? To me, an EQ is an alteration of the sound waves and air that's being pushed towards my eardrum, you know? If I dip at 5K like I did right here, all I really did is I dipped, you know, 5K of the sharp frequencies that are coming towards my ear. So in other words, I just altered the sound wave. You feel me? I look at it kind of like water, you know, like if I make a move on here, it alters the wave. It changes like when you splash water and you create waves, you know. If you splash a lot of times and it creates different types of wave. Same thing with here. Like if you dip, it creates it changes the structure of the sound wave going towards our ears. So, you know, I don't know. I don't agree with. Not that I don't agree. If you use charts and they've been working for you, that's great. That's awesome. Whatever gets us to the finished result that makes you happy when you're making your music, I think that's the best approach. An example is that, how did the car test become so popular? Well, because, you know, you're producing a song in your studio or in your bedroom, most of us, right? And then we export and then we go listen to in the car where we're at a lot and we play music a lot, and then it changes, right? A lot of us have gone through that where we get to the car and we're like, damn, there's not enough highs, or there's too much low end, or there's not enough mids, or there's not enough that. You know, those are all based on EQing decisions that are, you know, dependent of how you hear, the experience, the amount of hours that you've trained your ear to listen to sounds. First, let me say that the technical aspects of a song, I don't feel will ever supersede the artistic side of a song. Like, I think if your song has a lot of feel more than anything, it has feeling, it's got the lyrics to go with it, it's just a smasher when you just press play it just captivates your body. You're just like, oh man, like a good example of this is a song you guys all have heard most likely if you listen to dance music. Cascade and Dead Mouse's I Remember. I mean, I've heard that song about a zillion times, and every single time I hear it, since the first time I ever heard the song, I can't help but to say, damn, this song sounds like poop. Like it just, the fidelity, the way, you know, the way the song just sounds, like it just sounds horrible to me. Like it's muffled. It has no, like, the only thing that song has going for it is that it's beautiful, right? The song is just, I love that song. I've never met anybody that does not like that song, I Remember, by Cascade and Deadmau5. But if you go back and you listen to it, you will agree that it does sound muffled. It does sound muddy, as they say. So again, you know, just wanted to reiterate that the technical aspects of making a song are never going to supersede, I feel, the artistic side of making music. Okay, so now in here, in the DAW, okay, what I ended up doing here, this is my approach. Okay, so, iCloud error. Cannot authorize your software. Well, hopefully we don't use whatever it is it cannot authorize. Okay, so this is how I'm going about EQing. I start my track, right? And I do what I talked about in vlog number 2, okay? My second step is, you know, after so many times of starting a song and taking it to the point of mixing and then getting to the mix and completely destroying it and not even knowing why and hating myself for it, this is the term I have come to with myself. I told myself, okay, now, there's a lot of frequencies in an element. When I say an element, I mean in a track. Like if, say, you know, like in claps or crashes or, you know, or kick drums or hi-hats, there's gonna always be the factor of noise that we cannot hear. But because we cannot hear it, that doesn't mean we're not feeling it. So when you create your song, as I do, I don't think you should get into like cutting and really making these like exaggerated decisions, because what happens is that, like, if once you have your song and it feels decent to you, like you're like, yeah, I like this, I like the way it sounds, and you start using charts and cutting here and cutting there without actually listening and really analyzing what you're doing, you're gonna end up messing it up, just like I did so many times before. So by knowing the fundamental frequency of an element, like let's take these, let's take the hats right here. Okay, let me solo the hats, okay? Okay, so this hat, I have 2 of them. I have 2 different ones because they're kind of like jingling. Wanted to make that little jingle feel. Look, you hear this one to the left. This one's more in the middle, sort of to the right. Okay, so let's focus on one. This hat is fundamental, is at 8K, 8,000 kilohertz. This one is at 7,200, 7.2K. Let's focus on the one that's 8K, all right? 8,000. Okay, so look at that. On this hat, I've shaved just stuff that might come up later on in the process of adding distortion, compression if needed, maybe if I decide to clip it for whatever reason, to really push it up for whatever reason. I don't know what's gonna happen next because, you know, I'm going step by step here. So with this EQ, it's really cool because, like, you can actually listen by auditioning on here. You can hear when the frequency actually starts to become audible. See, you can't really hear anything. Look, if you go in, you can start hearing it now. So I push back to where like it sounds like it's almost can't hear it, but just barely hear it. Like, I mean, barely. And I stop right there. Okay? Probably don't need to shave that off. Don't need to cut that low end, but I'm going to, just because when I get out of solo, it still feels the same. If I had gone a little bit too far in and I've cut too much, then I would push it back. But what I'm trying to say is that when you use EQ, don't base it so much on charts. Base it on the fundamental and what is it playing along with, okay? Like, there's a lot of things playing with this right here. You know, it's got pianos, it's got the other hat, it's got this cymbal, there's a reverse cymbal going on, and I believe there's also the reverse crash. So there's quite a bit of stuff in this little part playing together. But I know that these two belong together, and I want them to kind of just sit well together. So what I ended up doing for these hats, for this one that plays at, the fundamental is at 8K, I ended up taking 7.2 out of it, a little bit. Look, I took like a dB and a half. So I took a dB and a half from the one that's fundamentally at 8, because this one plays at 7.2. You get me? Do you understand what I'm saying? So by cutting a little bit of this one, it allows the other one to kind of poke through that hole that I created. When you create a dip, remember, if you create a dip in the EQing, you're basically kind of lowering the volume in that specific frequency. And if there's something else there, the other there will poke out. And vice versa. I ended up taking out 8K, 2 dBs of 8K to let this guy's fundamental frequency poke through this one. So what you'll see is that when you try EQing moves like this, is that when you engage and disengage one or the other, you're gonna hear like this difference. Like you're gonna be able to kind of like, it almost like the one you're cutting to allow the other one to come through, it kind of like becomes a volume knob on the EQ. Obviously I can tell because when I'm playing these two together, let me put them, okay, when I'm playing, if I remove this cut, the one that plays at 7.2 is gonna become less apparent. Listen. Let me put it back. You hear that? So you hear that? You hear how it became louder, like it just becomes louder. Now let me do it to this one on this side. So now I'm gonna block this one from coming through this one. Watch, listen. It's a subtle difference that makes the world of a difference. It really does, you guys. It really, really, really does. I haven't cut much high end. I'm going to cut some high end. I'm gonna come back next actually and do that. But this is one example, and then I also did that with my claps. Right, I did that with my claps here. On this side, I did the same exact thing because both of these are playing at the same time, you know? Oh, let me get because I have a filter on them. Let me go over here where they're actually playing. Okay, so this clap, the fundamental is at 6.2. This clap is at 3.8. So on this one, I'm removing 3.8 a slight bit. Yep, I am. And on this one, I'm removing 6.2. Yes, I am. Okay, so listen to the difference between them. Let's play. Let me see so we can see it. Okay, so let's play the top one first. All right, the 3.8 one. And let's take, actually we got to do them together. I can't solo them. They got to be together. But we're going to mute and unmute the EQs. Okay, so here we go. Let's focus here. Let's take out the the cut from the 6.2 one and watch the 3.8 just kind of get kind of like smeared. Watch, listen. Look at that. You hear the 3.8 sounds heavier. It sounds like more, I don't know, like just more muddy. Now watch, let me put back the cut so that on 6.2 so that the 3.8 could just come right through it. Watch. You hear that? You hear this one poke right through this area right here? Listen. Look at that. It's just like, it's like smack dead blob, kind of like, it's not smooth. It to me it feels like things are conflicting, like things are like fighting. I feel that. Now listen to this. Look at how smooth that becomes. Now let's do it to the other one. Listen to that. You see that? Look it. Now watch. You hear that? You hear how this one cuts through this hole right here. Now, I'm not taking credit for this. This is something that a lot of people do already, okay? There's actually an isotope plugin that does this for you, that when you do a cut, I guess you tell it which one you're trying to work with, right? What conflicting frequencies are you know, fighting each other. So this is what I'm doing. This is what I've already done. And in my honest opinion, I've already made this track sound so much better because I've carved frequencies from things that, you know, were kind of like in the way of each other. Like here, let me give you an example here on this pad. So the piano plays like an entire, like the piano takes a lot of the spectrum. I'm sure you guys have seen those charts with the piano and it shows you like where the, you know, the basic fundamental of like you know, a piano, it occupies a lot, like the voice. I'll try to post one up right here somewhere so you can see it. And so this one, because where it's playing, watch. Okay, where's my pianos? Right here. Okay. In order for this piano to poke through here, I had to cut in certain areas so that the piano can cut through these parts, right? And then only leaving the essence in between them. Watch. Listen to the difference between this. Watch. Look. You know, that's not fair. Let me just do these two. These are the ones that are really causing the balance between them. Watch, listen. You hear that? Look. So when I dip these two areas at 994 and 2K or 2000 hertz, you know, or 2K, yeah, at 2K, it's allowing for the piano, which occupies a wide, frequency. Look, there's the piano. Take your pick. Look at it. It has a nice little peak at 2K. So see right here, when I do that, I cut this out so it allows the piano to come through. And you can hear that. Listen. Look, that was me before. I would have left this like this, maybe done some cuts that made no sense, but now listen to this cut. You hear that? Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Oh, yeah. So let me see. Just listen to this, you guys. I'm getting this thing EQ'd really nice, sounding really beautiful. Keeping the essence of the track that was original when I first started creating it. Listen to the So there you go. That's what I did as far as EQ is concerned. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave them in the comments. Let's talk about this. Again, just to recap, from now, like when I start a track, know your samples, know where they're predominantly energetic at, whether it's mono or stereo. And then, go in and don't mess anything up. Don't start shaving things because you remove the essence that you're feeling. You're switch, how could I say, you're exchanging feeling for something you can hear, right? Feeling versus something you can hear. If you start cutting and doing all these cutting all this energy that you can't really hear, you don't know if it's energy that you can feel. And before you know it, when you start playing your track, you're like, what happened? Why doesn't it feel the way it used to feel? Well, now you know. The best thing to do is to focus on your parts. Make sure you know where the fundamental frequencies are at. And as long as you give precedence to each element, give it its place in the mix, as they say. Mess around removing fundamental frequencies of adjacent elements. Mess around with that, lower it, raise it, and then find a happy medium. But remember, don't mess with the energy of your song. Mixing is like, you're an archaeologist and you found a dinosaur, you found a relic in the dirt. Once you're done with your track, mixing is more about like coming in and, with your little brush and just cutting away. Remember, it's energy, it's sound waves, air pushing out from the speakers towards your eardrum. So don't be so convicting with your moves. Move slowly, move with purpose, but understand that you're just altering the way the speakers react, and hence changing the sound waves that trigger your eardrums and that are going to trigger the listener. Don't forget that the vibrations and the sound waves that come towards you, you feel them based on the frequency, right? Low end, mid, highs, So go slow, move things out of each other's ways by, panning, okay? And when things are playing all together like that, you give precedence to the one that you want to sound the most in that section. And that's why some people, a lot of professionals, they do a lot of EQ automation, you know, because it changes the energy of the music, you know. On this part, you know, you can take everything out of the piano's way, but on this side, the piano is still there, but maybe you cut a little bit of the piano in certain areas so that other parts can poke through. And then as the sections move on, you change, you know. Those are things that I'm going to be doing soon on this track. So I'm glad I got to share them with you guys. Let me know what you thought of the content, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one.